Thanks for clicking. My name is Mark Mitchell. I'm a mortgage broker here in London, Ontario. All signs coming out of Ottawa this week seem to point to the fact that we're going to be looking at a September election, as a lot of leaks coming out of the Prime Minister's office are indicating that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is going to be asking the Governor General to dissolve Parliament in the coming days, sooner rather than later, and that we're probably looking at an election as soon as September 20th, right around there. So within the next month or two, we're very likely to be looking at a fall election in Canada. Obviously, COVID is most likely going to be a prominent issue, but probably a close second is going to be the real estate and housing market. Canada has seen our real estate prices shoot through the roof throughout COVID over the past 18 months to 2 years, and it's likely to be a centralized focus throughout for all three parties on the campaign trail, as more and more Canadians are getting more and more concerned over the affordability of housing. We've gone through a few polls on this channel about how Canada's almost always, or real estate almost always ranks as at least number 2 on Canadians' highest list of concerns. So what I want to do is briefly go over each of the three parties and what they've already said their plans are for the Canadian real estate market and to make housing more affordable. If history has shown us anything, we're about to see quite a lot of promises out of all of three of our leaders, and I think it's good to see what they've said in the run-up to the election in order for us to be able to accurately or adequately judge what is being said during the election. As we're all well aware, our politicians tend to overpromise during the election and underdeliver thereafter. So I think it's a really good idea to know what they've said about Canada's real estate market and the affordability of housing prior to the election, so we can adequately judge what they're saying or the adequacy of what they're saying during the election. Of course, we'll have updates throughout the election. Please like and subscribe to get those updates. But for right now, let's just go over what the three parties have said about our real estate market and the affordability of housing. So first off, I want to talk about Erin O'Toole, leader of the Conservative Party, and what he said and what the Conservatives have already said pre-election as for what they plan on doing for the housing market. To summarize, they don't have a lot of concrete plans. They do want to expand the existing affordable housing initiatives that the Liberals have been engaged in. They do want to replace the first-time home buyers incentive. That's where the government matches your down payment up to 20%. So if you put down 5%, they'll put down another 5%. They'll take a stake of ownership in your home. Erin O'Toole wants to replace that program, but he hasn't been specific at all with what he wants to replace it with. So on this policy stance, it's more anti-liberal than anything actual concrete that wants to come out. Obviously, he probably will come out with something more concrete in the days and weeks ahead, but for now, he just said that he does want to see it replaced. I don't know that it'll make a whole lot of difference because very few people have used it, at least that I've worked with, but that's just good to know. Erin O'Toole wants that program gone. The major concrete policy stance coming out of the Conservative Party is a complete end, for the time being, to foreign buyers speculating in Canada. So we've seen in the past foreign buyers tax imposed in Toronto and Vancouver, and the Liberals recently unveiled a nationwide foreign buyers tax. But Erin O'Toole has noted that he would like to see foreign buyers stopped completely from speculating in Canada, at least for the time being. So that's the big conservative announcement that they've taken, is a very hard line on the foreign buyers tax. And finally, Erin O'Toole has said that he wants to make sure that future generations have an access to the market. It's not exactly clear what he means by that. I would think he's sort of tongue-in-cheek poking at the idea that we have to make sure future generations aren't in more debt than they can handle. I think that was sort of a sly hit at the debt, but he didn't really elaborate, just to say that he wants to make sure future generations can have access to the market and engage in home ownership, which I mean, it's, yeah, all three parties would probably be for home ownership. That would be probably political suicide if they weren't. So, I mean, it kind of goes along with everything that he's already said, in that he wants to continue the affordability. He wants to replace the first-time homebuyer incentive, but he's not sure with what. And he wants to make sure everyone has access to the market. So, with the exception of ending speculation by foreign purchasers of Canadian real estate, Erin O'Toole doesn't really have a whole lot of concrete steps, concrete plans out there, although I'm sure we're going to see more and more of those flesh out during the election. Next up, I want to know that we've done the right. Let's do the left. Jagmeet Singh, leader of the New Democratic Party, the NDP. He does have a few more concrete plans in place that he wants to see Canada engage in. Major one is that he wants to see 500,000 new affordable homes built. Right now, obviously, we do have an affordable housing program, but he wants to see a drastic expansion of that program, with the idea being that if he can have more affordable housing, it should create less of a demand on the overall housing market, and that will help bring down prices at least somewhat. Secondly, he wants to see a higher foreign buyers tax. So whereas Erin O'Toole wants to see the foreign buyers tax, or the foreign buyer, eliminated from the market completely, Jagmeet Singh wants to see it taxed more heavily. So you can still buy property in Canada, but it's going to cost you. So that should make it a little bit more easier for our domestic consumers, people that already live here, to buy homes. They won't have to compete as much with foreign buyers. Third, Jagmeet Singh has talked about not only a speculation tax on foreign buyers, but also a speculation tax on domestic buyers. What he means is the house flippers. He wants there to be a penalty imposed on investors who buy property and let it sit uninhabited. So if you buy property and you want to rent it out, that's great. You won't be taxed on that. But if you want to buy a property, fix it, and flip it, sell it for a profit, you're going to get taxed for letting that property sit there. And his idea is that if we do have a supply problem here in Canada, and as long as there is a supply problem, then we need to use all the supply that we have to house our Canadians. We shouldn't have any homeless during a supply problem. We should be housed. Everybody should have a home before anybody makes a profit. There's all sorts of ways to look on that based on your political viewpoints, but that's his idea. So he wants to impose a tax on speculation, even for domestic buyers. Finally, and here's a big one that made most mortgage brokers stand up and take notice, is the possibility of introducing a 30-year amortization. Right now, if you have less than 20% down, the maximum amortization that you can use is 25 years. So, when you bump that up to 30-year amortization, it does help lower the payments for the average home buyer, and also increases the amount that they can afford. But it also increases the amount of interest that they'll pay over that 30 years, drastically in many cases. I will be doing a video as if he does expand on this 30-year amortization. I do want to do a video on the difference in how much interest that you'll pay off 25-year and 30-year, as the amount is shocking to a lot of people, how much difference that extra 5 years can make. So I do want to do that video, but for our purposes, it's good to note that he is considering a change to up to 30 years. It's also good to note that this is an idea heavily favored in the U.S., where 40-year amortizations, in order to make housing affordable, have become more and more and more the norm down there. So there's all types of implications for extending the amortization period, but we'll get into that in a later video. Finally, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has obviously made the most announcements vis-a-vis housing in the past couple months. 3 of them do tend to stick out, which we've gone over on this channel. He does seem to hang his hat quite a bit on the first-time homebuyer incentive. Again, that's where the government matches your down payment up to 10%, and there's all sorts of other stipulations that we've gone over in other videos. But suffice to say, it's not heavily used, and most buyers that I've spoken to, and that a lot of mortgage brokers have spoken to, do not take advantage of the program. And there's been all sorts of polling out about this program. But Prime Minister Trudeau has talked about expanding it, and but does tend to use it as evidence that the government has been doing something to help with the affordability crisis. He has talked about reaching out to the provinces to see what they would like to do to help with the affordability crisis. What that means has yet to become clear. It will probably become more clear as in the days and weeks ahead in the run up to the election. Again, we're just trying to see what the candidates have said prior to the election. And finally, and we've gone over this on this channel as well, the Prime Minister does want to explore some type of rent-to-own program in Canada that's government-sponsored. So I don't know, that could be where you do a rent-to-own and the government guarantees the loan, or the government helps with the down payment. It's yet to be seen. But that's so far, that was an idea just talked about by Prime Minister Trudeau just a few weeks ago. So, for the Liberals and Prime Minister Trudeau, we have the first-time homebuyer incentive, reaching out to the provinces, and looking at rent-to-own programs helped by and sponsored by the government. So, of the three parties, the NDP currently has the most concrete steps that they want to take that have actually been spoken about. With the main ones being 500,000 more affordable units being built, higher tax on foreign buyers, higher tax on speculators, and even the introduction of 30-year mortgages, which I'm assuming he must mean for those with less than 20% down, because if you do have 20% down, you can already do 30 years. So he must be talking about those insured mortgages that have less than 20%. Erin O'Toole has been very vague on exactly what he wants to help with the affordability crisis, with the big idea that he's hanging his hat on being an end to foreign buyers, a temporary ban. I think he's going to find a problem if he tried to do that, because if you ban foreign buyers, foreign countries are going to ban your buyers, and then he's going to have a domestic problem. Politically, I don't know how feasible that is, but that's what he said. Obviously, the rest of his ideas will hopefully, probably get fleshed out during the next few weeks. But so far, the only real concrete plan by Erin O'Toole that we have is an end to foreign buyers. And then finally, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has hung his hat on all of his accomplishments thus far. The first-time homebuyer incentive, reaching out to the provinces, and he does want to look at some sort of rent-to-own program. So we have all three. Whether or not all three will continue on with these ideas or have some new ideas during the election, we're going to find that out in the next couple weeks. With the election set to be called as early as tomorrow, Sunday, August 15th. Yeah, August 15th. Sunday, August 15th is when they're supposed to be calling the election, so we'll have more and more updates on the real estate market and what the candidates are proposing as they come out. If you like this video and do want to receive those updates, please do click like and subscribe for more, and we'll have updates as they come out. Thank you.